Okay, today is December 1st, 2020, so I am due to upload my YouTube video for my course on Master of Science in Ecocentric Sustainability, humanist type of worldview. So I've written a lot of notes in the last few minutes, and I'm going to press pause a few times. You'll see this in the video, and try to make sure I include everything I want to say today. And today is a plea for help, and I will explain why. So I believed in the last few years, both online and in living my life, and in what I post online is the documentation of how I live my life, is I've provided enough information that I am not someone that can be compromised. So if a country, let's say, is serious about applying solutions, and they're looking for somebody to do the tough decisions and be oversight and make sure that they are followed in this plan, then they would hire somebody like me that can't be bought by money or favors or things like that. And yet the fact that I try to offer, and I have in the last year, my own country of origin, these services, and I'm ignored, is proof here anyways that my theory continues to be exactly directing the culture to the default stagnant state that I predicted. So I was also looking recently about studies that might be able to prove that prayer has productive advantages, that is beneficial. And there's very little research, and of course it's not saying that there is, and sometimes it's saying that there isn't. It does harm. So, but one thing that's interesting is that there actually isn't a lot of research done on this subject over time. That's strange. So as I try to look for hope sometimes in my down days like today, is I try to find evidence that maybe solutions that we know are scientifically the right ones to apply are being applied and will continue to be in a collaborative way successfully. And every time I look for that, I find more evidence of the loom and gloom scenarios that are to come. So it's sad in this way. Just in the time of COVID-19, you can see that there's no real collaborations. That is, unless you count just the status quo of moving money around and becoming less and less efficient at it as you try to apply something that is totally out of the norm, accountability and transparency, and also don't acknowledge the real state of things, such as the theft of intellectual property, paranoia, greed, elitism. Everybody's trying to play these non-natural monopoly war games again at the same time. So of course it'll just speed up the fall that's coming. So in a previous video not that long ago, I provided two partial explanations of the various explanations why I labeled myself the Doctor of Humanics. But now let me tell you why I often say that I'm retired or semi-retired, and that is because I find, especially with my own relatives, is I find that trying to help them let's say, get to the base foundation of who they are and where we're at in our societies today, in the natural world. And the reality check is that I find that it makes things worse, and so I can't help anymore. I was born at a time, and even if I'd taken 20 years less time to acquire these theories and understanding and big picture of things and skill sets, it would have been too late. So it's some of the proof why right away when I realize I deserve this title, and as I deserve it, I have to retire it right away. So good intentions are now too late, and it's not just with me, it's even with politicians, and you can see this in Canada, and I assume most countries, is they want desperately to apply this time to make changes in the way things work, and they are realizing that the social momentums are not reversible anymore, right? You can't swim, even if 80% of them try to swim against the river. The river is also the rest of the citizens and business world and trade partners and all these things that are in the way. So the fall is coming. You know what's sad is that we don't really have that many real scientists or academics in the world, and a time capsule contribution that I wrote mentions that when a scientist discovers something, it's their responsibility to shed light on it and want to be a force for change and solutions based on their discovery. And people that are scientists now in elitist positions or status that is very comfortable for them, it's easy to see they don't have the courage or the conviction of the heart or even the skill sets, if they had those first two, to be part of the solution. So it's very sad. So I like this word that I discovered recently. You can do a Google search to learn more about your own language if you want, because believe me, if you're like 99.6% of the people on this planet, you don't master even your own one language. Intercede, interceders. So I was thinking SETI, search for extraterrestrial intelligence, is we should actually, instead of sending a chauvinistic message of how great we are, is we should send a message for helping us admit to the stage of our decline as a species and our failure that we're at now, so we don't take the rest of the natural world with us. So we would send a message saying we screwed up, we were so intellectually lazy, we had human chauvinism at incredibly high levels, and we use science more for the wrong reasons than the right reasons, and now we've passed multiple types of tipping points, and we don't want to take the rest of the planet with us because we want to use the tiny bit of sentience and sapience that we may have to not take the ship with us and maybe just jump overboard and say we are not good for this spaceship heaven. So even people that pray, even if there's no evidence, that's what they should pray to. They should pray to an extraterrestrial civilization hearing this message that we fail. Please come and save this planet from us. And that'd be interesting if there's a growing number of people and they acknowledge this and it's documented. It'd be interesting to see if that creates a change. It could be some interesting research. But now most societies, not just the USA, but most societies have devolved to a point where it's every man, woman, and child for themselves, and that includes in the same families. So again, it's a form of zombieism that we kind of know is there. We are not able to deviate from this devolved altruism that we had before. And of course, if you look at things objectively, human trafficking, slavery, it's still very much part of every country that I know and have traveled to so far. If you look at how it's easy or hard to get in and out of countries, some people will never, even if you give them donations, succeed in getting a passport to leave their countries. Voluntourism, including in Canada. Even in the last year, I've documented how it's tantamount to an act of terrorism if I am persistent at wanting to volunteer without some sort of money laundering happening where somebody, if not me, gets an amount of money that surpasses minimum wage. So adoptions is such a, it's almost, it's too much, but that's most definitely a form of human trafficking. When there are parents that can help and that they are the right kind of parents, and that they have to start by being bankrupt where money goes to people that take advantage of this, it's most certainly slavery and human trafficking. HSD is it no longer allows for any deviations from the status quo. So it's pretty obvious. I can't even find. It's just discouraging of just looking for hopeful information and being objective with what I find. And of course, we haven't been talking, and I've noticed this. And when I arrived in South Korea, I asked this lady that invited me, I said, is this the group of kids that you work with that are they seem to have retardation. And then if I kind of, apply the equivalency of noticing the same thing in my country, if you kind of remove the differences in culture, then I realize we have this too, and it's borderline intelligence is now the norm. And of course, we are not talking about this enough, but there's growing ADHD and many other conditions in kids being born, and if they don't have it already when they're born, they're being trained to have it. due to 99.6% of people's incongruences. So incongruence should be a psychiatric diagnosis, and of course 99.6% of the people, including the psychiatrists, have it. So it's quite sad that, that even if we understand something, we're just going to make it worse just by talking about it and not admitting that everybody's part of the problem. So it's not that God is dead, people. It's not that God abandoned us. It's that gods are fictional characters, and that we've spent too many thousands of years allowing these fictional characters to use up too much of our RAM, and now it's too late. So here's the message from the ecocentric humanist, the one and only. Don't let anybody else, unless they pass the test that I would devise for them, claim that they are as well. This is the message I would put in the SETI message. So this would be a nice thing for me to do before I die, is to help coordinate this message to try to save our planet. To any willing extraterrestrial interceders, we have failed, and we cannot stop ourselves from staying on that same road. Please, even if you have to end us, enslave us for ecocentrically useful altruistic reasons, please just come save this planet from us.